So we all have experiences, and those experiences are what drive our thoughts, our actions, and our beliefs. Welcome to the Greatest Asset Community Podcast. And in this episode, we are talking a little bit about our own experiences with real estate, as well as discussing a little bit of what some of the pros are and the cons are as we see it and as we've experienced it in our own lives when it comes to real estate. Some of the things that might be interesting for you to consider as well as you travel along your real estate journey. So I'm joined here today by Cynthia Davis. If you've listened to the last couple episodes, you're familiar with her by now. Real estate broker and entrepreneur, owner of Alert Real Estate School and Alert Properties, and has over 30 years of experience in the industry. So thank you for joining us today, Cynthia.
Excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. So, yeah, I guess I'll get things kicked off. You all know I like to just jump straight on into it, not a whole lot of time wasting banter. So, to get on into it, my personal experience with real estate has been a good one. I know not everybody has that experience, but I've had a really good experience with real estate. So to start off, I purchased my first home back in 2014, and I was transitioning to my second duty station at the time. So, for those who don't know, I am a Navy veteran. I did 7 years in the Navy, and so I was transitioning to my second duty station, and I was in projecting a long career because you don't know exactly where your career is going to take you all the time. But in projecting a long career, I was like, I don't want to go throughout most of my career in the Navy not owning a home and just renting from duty station to duty station. So first duty station I was at, I rented for a couple years. Went to my second duty station, I was like, all right, I'm a purchase. And so bought my first home, and I guess you could say never look back. I still own that home. It's been a rental now for a number of years. So it was a good experience. It was a learning experience, but it was a step or a leap of faith, if you will, that I'm glad that I took, because it was one that definitely set me up to be able to start building a lot of wealth for one, but also growing in independence by having that home ownership. And that's getting into some of the non-tangible things of owning real estate is what I'll talk about a little bit later. But with that first home, it really did set me up to start being able to grow wealth and everything. So that was something that I really enjoyed. It's different than owning, when you walk into, or excuse me, it's different than renting. When you rent a home or a condo, townhome, whatever it might be, if you've never owned, you don't quite understand the difference or feel that difference between when you walk through the door of your home. It's still your home because this is your apartment. And when I was only renting, I walked through the door and it's like, this is my home, this is my place. It feels different when you own it. I will say, walking through the door, something that is like, okay, this is something that I own, something that I'm responsible for. That is the sense that kind of took over when I became a homeowner and I had that house that was now my own, that I could call my own. So I thought it was a great first step. And then even after I transitioned to my third duty station, like I said, I still kept the property and just used it as a rental property, which is what it is today. Ended up buying another home, which is the one that I live in now. So I bought two homes over the course of my home ownership journey. And again, a great decision in my point of view is just to have that place where I can raise my family. It's me, my wife, and our three kids. So just having that place where we can call home, my kids can grow up in, and we can kind of do with it as we please, has been a great experience for me. So I'll pause there really quick and throw it over to you, Cynthia, to hear a little bit about what your home ownership journey has been like.
Wow, it's been just that. It's been a journey. It has been a journey. But the exciting thing is the journey doesn't have to end unless I say so. And it's not ending for me. My real estate purchase began in 1980 in October. It's when I bought my first house. And what I will say is that it, it gives you a sense of accomplishment that renting had not given me before because I was a single, and yes, I'm a female, and I was single, and I bought my first house. So that was a an accomplishment that I can't put words to. And that property I kept and rented out, such as yourself, one of the best moves that I made. But that property also set me up to be able to purchase the property that I'm in now. And so that property was rented for many, many, many years. And I'm grateful for that. Now, the experiences that come with renting, that's a whole nother topic, perhaps. But the accomplishment, the ability to know that I am adding to my net worth and to know that I'm growing something for myself. I can't explain it to you, but yes. And so using properties to move me up in net wealth is how real estate has been more than I could ever imagine it would be for me.
So I know that a lot of individuals who are wealthy tend to have a portion of their money tied to real estate investments, whether it be property that they own for business purposes or property that they own for whether the business is, something else but needs real estate that they own, or whether the real estate in and of itself is apartment buildings, complexes, rental homes, whatever it might be. A lot of wealthy people have their money tied up in real estate. And it's my belief that a lot, and not just my belief, I mean, you can look at the facts, a lot of wealthy people built their wealth through one of two things. One, through real estate, or two, through a successful business. And so having, either successful business or real estate was key in a lot of people generating wealth. Well, I can tell you that it takes a lot more energy, effort, time, and a little bit of, know-how and knowledge and everything to build wealth through owning a business. It is the level of entry in terms of the bar of entry for owning a home is lower than it is for starting a business, building it up to this big successful business and everything. So one of the things that I like about real estate, and talking a little bit about some of the things that I think are positives, is for one, that stable investment that I believe it provides. So throughout history, the real estate market has proven to be very stable. Yes, there are moments and have been uh, moments throughout history, not frequent, but sporadic throughout history, where the real estate market has taken a hit. The most recent one being in 2008. But before that, you have to go back, many years before that, before you see another dip in the real estate market. So it does not happen frequently. And you can see that now, whereas we're in 2024, how many years are we separated now from 2008, 16 years ago, and we have not had another 2008. We could very well go another 8 years, 16 years, and not have another 2008. So I like the stability of it, but I also like the resiliency of the real estate market. When 2008 happened, we saw home prices come down and we saw a lot of foreclosures and everything on the market. However, you separate yourself a few years from that, going to 2012, 2004, you just see this steady building back up of the real estate market. It didn't stay broken. It not only was built back, it was built back stronger than what it was. Home prices bounced back even more than what they fell into, even more than what the highs were prior to the 2008 crash. So you saw the resiliency of it. And that's another thing that I I like about the market is that, you know what, it's very stable. You're not going to experience those drops frequently at all. And if you happen to experience a drop in the market, in the real estate market, you can rest assured that if you maintain that asset, the value is not only going to come back, it's going to exceed where it currently is right now. And so I do like the fact that over time real estate appreciates. And if that's an unfamiliar word to you, appreciates just means that it increases in value over time. So obviously, no one knows what's going to happen in the future. So we look at the past as an indicator of what future activity could be like. And over the last 63 years, the real estate market has appreciated or increased in value on average of a little over 4% year over year. And so when you think of, all of the, not all of, it's actually only been about two or three market drops within that 63-year history. So when you think about that, it hasn't been that many, huge declines in the market with real estate. And you average out the drops with, the times when the market is going up, it's increased about 4% year over year, outpacing inflation, because there's some of that is tied to inflation as well, with the prices of goods and services going up as well. So some of that increase is tied to inflation, but real estate also appreciates at a rate that's faster than inflation. It's higher than inflation, meaning that your wealth, your net worth is growing at a rate that's faster than what inflation is, which is the cost of goods and services, and the cost of living is growing. Your net worth as a real estate owner is growing at a faster rate, which is key, because if inflation, which is going to happen year over year, continues to rise, but your earning income does not rise, that means the amount of purchasing power that you have is less and less and less. You cannot afford nearly as much if you are not at least increasing your earnings year over year at the rate of inflation. And that's just to maintain your standard of living. If you want to increase your standard of living, you need to outpace inflation and earn at an income higher than inflation. And the fact that real estate is an asset that does appreciate and has historically appreciated at a rate that's higher than inflation, I do like that, again, stability and that resiliency with the real estate market as well. But Cynthia, what are one or two things that you enjoy, or that you would view as a positive when it comes to your thoughts on the real estate market?
Okay, I want to first, excuse me, go back and tap into something you just spoke about, the resilience of the market. And what, as a real estate broker actively working in the market, to be able to capitalize on that resilience, you cannot operate in fear. And that is what I've seen why some people lose out on opportunities, is that when the market shifts and goes a direction they don't particularly like, they operate in fear. They jump on it, they move. It is exactly what you said. It will recover. Sit, wait on it. It is a solid investment. It is an investment that will stay with you, go up, down, but it is going to be there. And one of the things that I like about real estate is it's predictable. It is predictable. It is predictable as far as we look at, you said, look at history. History gives us a good indication of what is going to be happening with our property. Not only that, it's also an asset that I can tap into if needed. It is, for some people, most people, their largest savings account. And those are funds that you're saving without really truly putting in a whole lot of effort. You're paying your mortgage each month, but you're building that savings account that we really don't think about, but it is there. So I say that it's constant. It will constantly change. It is predictable, but it is a strength that is hard to put into words, but real estate is a strength that gives me it. And I feel as though owning real estate empowers me. It empowers me to continue to move forward and I give it a place of value in my life that helps me to continue moving forward. And so I like the fact that it is stable. It's not always the same, but wherever it is stable, and I can always expect it to rise up again.
So let me ask you a question. With your 30 years of experience in the real estate industry, how many market dips have you seen over that 30-year span? I mean, has it been a ton? How many, and it doesn't have to be to the level of a 2008. Obviously, we know that was a huge one. Um, but how many dips have you seen where, real estate prices or home prices just took a huge dip? Again, it doesn't have to be to the level of a 2008. And obviously, I know the real estate market itself from a business standpoint is cyclical. But as far as home prices, just, taking a significant cut.
I cannot honestly say, okay, 2008 was one that really, really was impactful for a lot of people. But at the same time, I've seen interest rates rise, and I myself purchased the property with a 17% interest rate. Property,
Wow,
okay,
when was that?
that was in the 80s, in the low 80s, in 1984, in
Okay.
1984, in 84. Now, that might, but interest rates were high. Property values were not diminished. Property values were still steady. So actually seeing values of property drop, probably for me, and I started real estate way back when, I cannot say more than one other time outside of 2008. Now you might see a little dip. Now 2008 was a drop,
Yes.
you know, but you might see a little dip, but nothing like 2008. I really haven't experienced that, even with the rise and fall of interest rates.
Okay.
The market itself for homes has remained in demand,
Gotcha.
regardless.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, One other thing that I like, I'll actually talk about two other things, but one that I also like about real estate is, and I alluded to it earlier, I spoke a little bit about it earlier, was that sense of ownership and independence that you get. And I won't be long on this since I did speak on it just a moment ago, but that sense of ownership and the independence that you get, it's something that it's hard to put into words until you actually become a homeowner and you feel that sense of ownership. Because when you're renting, it's like, okay, you get the keys and this is your place. And there's independence that comes from that too, particularly if you were previously living at your parents' house and all of a sudden it's like, I moved out of my parents' house and I'm renting an apartment now. There's a sense of independence that comes from that. So you can get that from renting too. It's different as an owner, but you can have that from renting as well when you move out of a place where you were previously living with family members or at the house where you grew up in, and all of a sudden that changes and now I've got my own spot. I can invite my friends over. I can do whatever because it's mine. And so that you get that as well, but it's different when you own, specifically with the sense of independence that comes into place. Is a different independence, like an independence away from, the parents' house. It's an independence away from me needing to have someone else provide a dwelling for me. This is now a dwelling that I own. And so it is a different sense of independence that you get when you own a home, because it's not that separation from people, so to speak. It's that separation from me needing someone else to, oh, the heat went out, I need you to come fix this. It's like, no, you know what, it's my responsibility now. This is my home. I own everything that takes place within this home. And there's some people that try to use that as a negative, like, oh, now you're responsible for all the maintenance and upkeep of the home. It's like, well, when you're renting, you're still responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the home. The only difference is you pay a landlord, and it's the landlord's job to go and find someone that maintains and upkeeps the home. But included in that rent amount is money that the landlord is setting aside so that when you call them because something breaks, they can go and fix that something that breaks. And so you are still paying for it. It's just the landlord's responsibility to go find someone to fix it. But that was never anything that I had viewed in a negative light, in sense of, oh, now it's my responsibility to change every light bulb that goes out and fix everything that breaks. It was like, no, you know what, I own that responsibility. And even if when you're a business owner, that's one of the things that entrepreneurs have to do, is take ownership of everything that happens in their business. They can't just look at, oh, when stuff is good, this is great, and then, oh man, business is slow this week, or, oh, I gotta pay taxes, or I got to spend money for marketing, or, and say, you know what, I don't like owning a business. Some people, it's not for everybody to own a business, because there is responsibility that comes with it. And so just like there's responsibility that comes with owning a business, and you needing to take responsibility for everything good and bad that happens within that business, there is also responsibility that comes with owning a home, and you either taking pride or ownership in your home and everything that needs to be maintained and upkept with the home, or you deciding, you know what, this is not for me, I want someone else to have that responsibility, they can own the home and I'll just rent from them. And that's okay as well. It's okay for you to go either way. But for me, it was a sense of, you know what, I want ownership of this thing. If something breaks, it's my responsibility to fix it. But you know what, as the wealth gets built in the home, and as I have that sense of independence and ownership as well, I own that feeling as well. That's something that I'm proud to hold on to. So for me, that was the sense of ownership and independence that I liked from owning the home.
And I chime in with you. You just taking the words out of my mouth, because the word responsibility is a word that, when I'm sitting at the closing table, people have just purchased sometimes their first home, and that's one of the words they say, this belongs to me, it's mine. It's my responsibility to care for it, to take care of it, to keep it in a fashion that will allow it to maximize its potential for the length of time that they are going to have it. And so they take that responsibility at that table, and sometimes they shed tears, because with that responsibility comes a level of accomplishment, that they've reached another level of accomplishment in their life. And some have gone through many challenges to get to that point, but the emotions that flow at the table, because they now have a responsibility that they can be proud of, and that they,
Absolutely.
mhm,
And the last thing that I will mention in terms of what I like about real estate is leverage. And
yes,
so, what I mean by leverage is the ability for you to grow wealth on a asset that's worth more than what your investment in it has been. And so, this is what I mean by that. So, the let's take FHA for example. A FHA loan on a home, the minimum down payment requirement is 3.5%. So With 3.5%, let's say we'll take a $400,000 home, for example. 3.5% of 400,000 is $14,000. So if you have $14,000, that's your down payment in that home. Now, let's say you take $14,000, put it in the stock market, and the stock market goes up that year 10%, which is a really good return um, in the stock market. But if the stock market goes up 10%, then that 1,400 grew, or excuse me, that $14,000 grew $1,400. So you made 1,400 over that 1 year period of growth in the stock market, because that would be your 10% increase. Now, let's say that you took $14,000 and put that as a down payment on a $400,000 home. And in that same year, that home increases 4%. That 4% increase of a $400,000 home is $16,000. So again, you put 14,000 in the stock market and you get a $1,400 return off of 10% growth or 10% increase in the stock market. But $1,400 as a down payment on a $400,000 home and it increases just 4% is $16,000 that you made over that same period of time. So again, we're talking $14,000, over $14,000 more that you would have made in that same year, just 1 year, off of having your money leveraged by real estate. And again, it's leveraged because your down payment, the amount of money you have invested, is that same $14,000, but it yields you greater because the home itself is $400,000, and that appreciating at a 4% outpaces $14,000 that grows at 10%. And so that is one of the things with leverage that I really do like about real estate, is that ability to be able to use a smaller amount of money as leverage to leverage an asset that is worth way more than what your initial investment is. And I understand also that you have closing costs when you purchase that home and everything, but I also understand that closing costs can be paid for by the seller or the buyer. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to have to pay all of those closing costs. It's not guaranteed that you might have to pay half of those closing costs. Now, the closing costs are the buyer's responsibility when you purchase a home. However, again, that's something that can be negotiated with the seller for the seller to help cover some of those closing costs. So how much you would have to pay there can also vary. But again, the point being that exponentially, you have so much more wealth that can be built through leverage as a real estate owner, versus just putting your money in, putting that same 14,000 in the stock market, for example. And that's not to say over a long period of time that 14,000 that you put in the stock market won't grow year over year. If you're compounding it at an 8% year over year or whatever that percentage is, it will absolutely grow. But you can see that how real estate also can be a benefit to you, that offers more stability as well, because as opposed to the real estate market, which does not have those huge dips very frequently, the stock market has them more frequently than what you will find in real estate. So that is something you want to be aware of. And to mention one last fact, that the Federal Reserve put out research showing that homeowners are 40 times, the median net worth of homeowners is 40 times higher than the median net worth of renters. And a lot of that has to do with that leverage in home values and prices going up over time. So the last thing I will get into is just talking about a little bit of the possible shortcomings of real estate. Talking a little bit about some of the things that you might need to watch out for when it comes to real estate. So I did mention leverage in the pro side. Leverage can also hurt you if you become over leveraged. So when you have a mortgage or a loan on a home, you are responsible for that. And you need to make sure that you are paying your mortgage on time, but also making sure that the amount that you are required to pay every month in that mortgage is not stretching you so thin that if you had to miss time off of work for whatever reason, that now all of a sudden your finances are in a situation where you're worried about being able to make that mortgage payment. We saw in 2008, there were a lot of people that were over leveraged, meaning that they had purchased homes that they could not afford the payments for. And that's a large part of what led to the wave of foreclosures is the lending standards were a lot lower. So if you could fog a mirror, if you had a pulse, it was easy to get a home. You know, credit score didn't really matter as much, or if at all. And so you had a lot of people that were just going out and buying homes, but then you also have payments on those homes. And when you can't afford the monthly payment on those homes, now you're over leveraged to the point to where you have this asset, but you can't afford to service the debt on that asset. And so it's not going to help you in a sense. And when you have enough of that, you end up with the crash of 2008. And there were a lot of things that were put into place to prevent another crash from 2008. But getting back to not being over leveraged, you want to make sure that you can afford to service the debt that you have in real estate. So whether you own just one home, whether you own several homes and use them as investment properties, second homes, vacation homes, whatever, you don't want to over leverage yourself because that can put you in a situation to where now we're becoming delinquent on mortgage payments and everything like that. And it can really mess with your finances. You want to make sure that you properly allocate money towards maintenance and repairs that are going to happen. Properly have, at least 6 months in an emergency fund in case something happens. You can still keep all your bills paid and everything like that for at least the next 6 months, preferably a year. So,
Right. And part of that leveraging is making sure that you're entering into a type of loan product, mortgage product that will work for you. A lot of that 2008 fiasco was because there was a loan product that was an interest only loan. And when the the balloon payment was due, there had been no preparation on the owner's part to be able to pay that. So, or they had a graduate loan and the interest rate gradually moved up. So be mindful of the type of loan product that you enter into. It might be good for right now, but look long term. Look long term.
absolutely. So that's all that I have to talk about in terms of the, just my experience in real estate. You heard from some of Cynthia's experience in real estate. Obviously, ours is largely on the positive side. You have some people that may have had negative experiences. Some of the ways that also some of those negative experiences could have been mitigated is by having a good home inspection done prior to purchasing a home. If you're going to purchase an asset that you're going to be responsible for, especially one that you're borrowing money in order to purchase, it's only to your benefit to inspect that home, have a home inspector to come in, look at all the details of that home, look at the true condition of that home, HVAC system, furnace, water heater. They look at, the foundation, everything, because you want to make sure that if you're borrowing money for this investment, that it's going to be solid and it's not going to become a money pit that's going to end up sucking your money dry out of your bank account, because now you're going to have to handle repair after repair after repair. Oh, the roof was leaking. Well, you can have an inspector, that same inspector that's checking all those other things can also go up on the roof and check the roof so that I'm not going to have to replace this roof anytime soon. I'm not going to have to replace any major systems anytime soon. I'm not going to have to do foundation work anytime soon. They can look at there's no signs of termite damage. That's not something that I'm going to have to be mitigating with the termite damage. So having a good inspector, a home inspection done, is something that can save you a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress and headaches if you do that on the front end and inspect your investment before borrowing that money and purchasing that home. So that is all that we have for you. As always, feel free to follow us on social media. You can follow me at GA Loan Officer. That's GA Loan Officer on Instagram and TikTok. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Frederick Middlebrooks on LinkedIn. Cynthia, Davis. You can also catch her website, alertpropertiesre.com, and you can find all her information on there as well. But no, please do like and subscribe to the podcast. Find us on YouTube, Greatest Asset Community on YouTube, and please do subscribe and like the podcast. It really does help us be able to push this out to more people. So thank you again for taking the time to tune in. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care. Be blessed.